Look at that, it's me dressed up in a school uniform.
Oh my days.
Outside
Mrs.
home ec
Limerick,
block.
what? You're like...
Look at you all dressed up here. It's like a fancy dress parade.
Yeah.
We used to have a band and the police used to come as well, didn't they, and have a stall. That's the lady who has the otters.
I remember the Otters Day.
Do you?
I actually remember them bringing the otters in.
Well, that's the lady. Well, what were we celebrating there?
That's the one that I think it was 80 years of the school.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's Leanne. Do you
Oh,
remember when
yeah.
we had the Vietnamese boat
That
people?
was it, yeah. I can't get over this photo. Oh my God. But yes, when I think back, if it wasn't for you taking photographs, a lot of us would have had no record of being there, you know what I mean?
Well, when I started in 1973, it was a technical school, and then in the following year, it became a grammar school, Colwell School for Girls.
It was a lovely school. It was like a small school. There was less than 500 of us there, and it just had really good memories. A lot of us are friends on Facebook, and I've got a couple of friends still from back then. So it just had a good history. We just had a really good time. And we were taught well as well, taught good values, not just the education, but good values as well.
We done everything, tennis, you know, we didn't have our own fields, so we used to have to obviously travel on a coach to Denmark Road school fields, but we was out for the afternoon. That was, you know, we done our sports day there. We done tennis round the corner in Oxtors. Yeah, it was home. That was our little life there.
We did a lot of things with the community. So within my subject, we used to have elderly people for Christmas lunch, to come for Christmas lunch. The girls used to wash staff cars in order to make the money to buy the turkey and all the trimmings and things. We invited children from Widden School. They would come and have afternoon tea or lunch, so that we very much part of, I think, the community. And of course the community obviously sent their daughters to Colwell. So I think it was a well-liked school. Yeah.
Well, I just worked with lots of lovely people there, and people I remember that aren't necessarily any longer with us, but Janet Yenish had a big effect on my life. I learned so much from her. She was brilliant. She was the most beautiful, gentle lady that the girls respected. And I just used to look at her and think, how does she do it?
But the highs of the friends that we made, and some of them was like, I wish I'd known you better at school, when we were having laughs on Facebook. They still see you in the street now and, you know, give you a hug and all the rest of it. So, you know, my year group's 50 now. I think I'm one of the last ones to turn 50. So, yeah, we had some good laughs. So sometimes maybe we should have been thrown out of school, to be fair, but yeah, I enjoyed it. But yeah, the lows were I should have behaved better, really. But there you go. I did all right, got out the door without getting kicked out, so there you go. Bonus points there.
And we taught a variety of subjects, not only obviously the ones I taught, music, business studies, geography, history, RE, textiles, whole variety of subjects were taught at the school. And it took children from sort of the local area, and the local area was the only inner city grammar school. There were 3 girls' grammars at the end, and we were the smallest. I think we had about 490 pupils that went to Colwell. So we were definitely an inner city school.
Well, I used to do some art, which I really didn't enjoy very much. And then in the afternoons we used to have to take the girls out onto the playground to line up in their forms to go to the boys' school for games lessons. They used to get on the coach, and depending on the season, we'd go up and do some hockey or some athletics. And if we were lucky, we would see some boys, and then the girls would get very excited. Yes, it was fun. No, it was good fun. So that was, and then when I wasn't enjoying myself, I was teaching some art and I was teaching some maths. No, to be fair, I enjoyed my time there. I did enjoy it.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I can remember then as well, you'd have a couple of people and they'd come with like some big, thick ties. And then you'd have the rest of the people trying to get as thin a tie as possible. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, the tie was the thing. Do you know what I mean? You know, the thicker, oh, that's gone out. We want the thin ones now because we're trying to look a bit more, you know, what's the word? Sleek. Because obviously we were in the 80s then, so, you know, it was a different sort of look.
There's a picture of me with an afro taken, I'm not sure when, but the girls, I mean, school uniform was strict, but there were some interesting hairstyles over the years. I think they just followed fashion and were allowed to do so. So that, yeah, there were some interesting haircuts. Looking at the photos, I don't think we thought they were interesting at the time, but yes, they were. Yeah, I just followed fashion like typical teenagers. I taught in a block opposite the gate. There were 2 rooms, one upstairs, one downstairs. And so I taught food and nutrition upstairs. We had stone staircase.
You know, that's where we learnt. We started off with beans on toast and ended on a 3-course meal when we got to the, well, we used to call it 5th year, it's year 11 now. So she grabbed some old bloke off the street and cook for a bunch of pensioners, like cook them a Christmas dinner, you know, when we got to the early part of the 5th year.
Because basically, then in the school, you would come in through the door, and you'd have like a massive hall, and in this hall, there would be dotted around classrooms within this hall.
And then upstairs, it was another big space with classrooms around, and that was the hall, and there was a stage, and we used to have to sit on there for assemblies.
It used to be really shiny. I remember the hall was really shiny. We had like classrooms around the edge, like the music room, the English rooms and the history rooms around the edge. And yeah, we used to cram in there. You had to stand up. It was a bit of a long one, a half an hour listening to her droning on. But yeah, it was like, stood like this, you know. But yeah, I remember you come back at the next beginning of the term and it would be shiny as hell, you know.
And we used to park our cars in the front playground. Just drive across the playground. I'd never be allowed now, but we used to drive our cars across the playground and just park them. And the students never touched them. It was just, I think everybody respected each other. I think that's important in life. You respect everybody, no matter what. And having talked to other students that I've spoken to in the last few days, they said, you know, we can never remember any rubbish. There was never any litter. It was just tidy and well cared for and well loved, I think.
You know, I wish I'd looked at more, because when I was in my photograph, all the ornate decoration and stuff, it was a pretty school, you know, like full of history and stuff.
I mean, like I said, considering it was quite small, we didn't go without anything. Yeah. Small but mighty, that's what we were. Small but mighty.
I think they lost a gem in the community. They really did, you know. But they wouldn't justify running a school that small again.
It was horrible, really, that last year, because there were less students and some of the staff had already gone. But we were still carrying on teaching exam groups, obviously, and the other students. And I was quite distraught that it closed. I didn't agree with it. And I thought it was a real pity, because it was serving the community, and quite wrong that it closed. I do remember crying quite a lot on the last day.
I think it was strange, not then just for me being as an ex-pupil, but for me being a resident in the area. It was just strange because I've always grown up with the school being open, you know, chattering, you know, you can hear the girls chattering when they're outside or whatever. Yeah, really, I think I most probably missed it more as a resident than what I actually did as a, because obviously I was an ex-pupil, now I'm gone, you know, I'm too big for school. So, you know, I definitely say I missed it more as a resident in the area rather than, you know, a pupil, if that makes sense. Because it was part of my life, part of me growing up, it was part of my life, you know, so yeah, funny feeling.
I spent a lot of my youth going there, and meeting a lot of friends that I'm still friends with now, and I probably feel like it had a strong impact on my life of where I wanted to go, the direction I've gone in. I remember going to that building for years and years, and it weren't until I got into a role as becoming a youth worker, for like when I was 19 or maybe 20, I worked for a building called Community Council, and I had to go to the Colwell building on the opposite side. And I remember that always being a place where people, well, musicians, if you was young and you played like a brass instrument or anything like that, was like the kind of the music side. And I remember that was almost like the posh part of Colwell, really. And I've still never even been inside it for all these years. I've never inside it, but I remember, I don't know if it's still open now. So it's still operating now. So I just remember just going there. I don't know what it was for, the community council, but I was just like, wow, is this what happens over this side? But there's like a bell that you had to ring to get in, and it was kind of like closed off. And then, but it was not like a place that I knew you could go. And I didn't know none of my friends that I know played an actual instrument or did anything like that. So I didn't know what actually happens on that side of the building at all, really.
Now, when Colwell Community Centre was first opened or reopened, they spruced it up on the outside, but then on the underneath, the insides, there were faults. They didn't replace the roof. The roof was just painted with repairable tar, and the boiler room was not done, so it still had asbestos down there, and it was still oil fed, whereas the music centre across the road had a complete new gas boiler fitted, and the roofs were done. And the upkeep has been beautiful. They've spent money on regenerating inside it, whereas Colwell, it was always put on the back burner. The windows would be done later on, you know. So if the money was spent on the Colwell Art Centre, like it should be spent on Colwell Community Centre, then Colwell Community Centre would still be going.